some premeditation stretching. Ah. Ah. One thing that I've been playing with recently is not doing anything meditation like per se, but just relaxing. And I want to see if here in the shared space we can do that together without getting dull, without falling asleep. So see if you can do that with eyes open or closing your eyes and then opening them every 20 seconds, 30 seconds, just to stay with us. For the rest of the time, just being with anything in your body, anything with the space of awareness, and having this sense of relaxing. How could I relax more? Could I settle in more? And notice any place in the body that becomes heavier or softer or slower. In this sense, of course, you can treat it as the same practice because those sensations are pleasant, peaceful. It may have the same effect of bringing up to mind anything that's not resting and allowing it to dissolve into the restful space and the intention to rest. And as you feel any type of restful sensation in the body more, you start to switch the ratio of the restful intention to the feeling of relaxation and rest and melting. How can we do even less right now? Less meditating, less intending, fighting, less planning. Less wondering if you're doing it right. Notice if there's anything that attending to would help the relaxation, like some emotion that needs to be felt, or some thought about the future that comes up and that could be relaxed with a strong resolution to take care of it later. Maybe some tension in the body that needs some love. And for some of you, with these practices so ingrained already, just continuous intention to relax and then melting into the sensations would naturally make all those subtle movements happen by themselves. And I want you to notice how your heart feels right now. Sometimes relaxing is enough to unwind some of the tension, relax whatever emotion might be resisted, allow the heart to open naturally and simply, just by virtue of not being encumbered. Can you relax 5% more? You notice that you become dull, lose some of your alertness. Just open your eyes for a second. Continue relaxing into the visual field. Continue relaxing into our shared presence. And as we come close to bringing the meditation to an end, take 3 deep breaths, filling up your lungs, filling up the space in the belly, and see about exhaling slower than the time it took to inhale. 3 breaths like this. We end the meditation and come back to a short space. Take with you the signature of any feeling of safety, peace, groundedness, relaxation. See if they can be friends and even guides on the journey and exploration that we have today. Before we jump into the summary today, I have a little inquiry for you all to start with. And that is, what is fear? What is fear?
Aversion with a touch of panic.
Burden with a touch of panic. This is not a trick question.
Like a prediction of the future that feels intolerable.
Mm-hmm. Fiction of the future that feels intolerable. And intolerable to what? Who?
There's just a belief um intolerable to the concept of the self, I guess.
Hmm. What else?
Yeah, it's just it's a signal of your body that is trying to predict that something that something could happen that you have already categorized it as not wanted.
Yep.
Or very new. Therefore, it doesn't know if it's unwanted or like wanted or not. So just in case, it labels it no. Yeah.
The latter I would say is more awe when you're in a new experience, especially one that feels like stepping into a new and bigger room than before. Awareness, right? But it's not so much fear. You could even classify that more as on the side of excitement, fear.
Yeah, I was just more thinking about when something is unfamiliar from whatever you've been doing. So it's just different. And sometimes it feels like an aversion to it because it's not the familiar. So it feels like fear. That's what I was pointing out. You don't know how it would be, but it's just different.
So actually that's also something good to delay on later, but let's see if there's any more answers.
Mm-hmm.
X.
I would say that fear is when any pattern is threatened with the solution. So like, I don't know if that makes sense, but any kind of structure in the mind that sort of like consolidated into a thing and has acquired a desire to persist. When that is threatened, then there's fear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we're all touching the elephant in different directions, and indeed at the foundation there is a fixed intention or a conglomerate of those fixed intentions or subminds that have their own self-definition that's being threatened in some way. And then the aversion is created. Fear is created. This is the thing that's a threat to my survival. And of course, fear is the natural emotion before an animal exists with the type of elaborate mind that we have, is simply meant to arouse us, bring some clarity into the threatening situation immediately, like the quintessential example of a tiger in the woods. You immediately want to step to alert, see where it is, and run very far away. I would say panic is more of the distorted version of that, where fear, in some sense, you go into a jhana with the fear, and then it just creates too much fear everywhere, and there's no clarity, where clarity is what fear is for, right? Normally our practice you could discuss as going into jhana or into absorption with a positive quality, like relaxation as we did today, pleasure, or whatever open-hearted quality. Panic and anxiety and so on are generally generated when doing something like this, and of course without choice, obsessively spinning up some emotion, and it becomes distorted. Like when with panic, if you're panicking with tiger chasing you, you're probably not going to run away really well. If you have fear, it energizes your body and gets you to just bolt out of there. Now, when we talk about fear for something that's much more mind generated, in the sense of having to do with our self-definition, with our agendas in the world, then again, that fear is generated based on the idea of the submind in question pretending that its existence or lack of existence is a survival threat. And we spoke about this before, about the way that those mechanisms really hold on to the signals that they can send upstream or into the physiology that then cause the same signals as if we're about to be eaten. So if I lose my job, and of course there is a thread between losing my job and not having resources and not having a home and dying alone in the cold, but they're much exacerbated the more that I identify with my job. And so from being a bit of a sticky point or like a tinge of pain around, oh, maybe I'll lose my job and I won't have money, instead of being, oh, what are my other options? Oh, who could I crash at if that happens? It becomes magnified and magnified, and the job is my survival. And the magnitude of the survival threat and then the proportion of fear that we feel has to do, and I'm bringing up the context of everything that we've covered so far, the amount of emotional charge that exists around the thing otherwise, how much it is, this job or whatever it is, a load-bearing fixed intention underlying other fixed intentions, right? Job, status, options in the world, in the dating market, and then job also, it means I'm smart, my caretakers will love me, and so on. So depending on how much this is load-bearing, when this is threatened, anything on top of that is also threatened. and will vibrate much more all of these very visceral senses of I'm actually going to be eaten by a tiger right now. I'm actually going to be thrown out by my community into the cold where I die from hunger. And so it's not that fear, and I want to make that clear up front, is an issue. Of course, when we have fear come up and we just face it and feel it directly, it will bring clarity, not just about the tiger, but also in exactly the same sense that we have been discussing. If I'm losing my job or if I have a conflict with my community, it will show me what it is that I think is at stake. It will show me the thing that's making my entire existence go into this panic mode. But what I want us to explore today is that in the context of what we call the womb of the Buddha, or fundamental consciousness, the awakening that's already there, the reason that we cannot access it, and there's a whole path towards recognizing that it's already there, is that anytime we touch it and suddenly all options become available, because we don't have all the constructs constricting those options on top, there is something that we are afraid of. There is something that we do not want. And we were talking about this earlier in the wider sense of underlying any samsaric loop, there is some emotion or some pain that's not being felt. And that's for the same reason of fear, because we fear the sensation, we fear the emotion, we fear what it means about us to be the thing that's underneath that loop. And there's a way you could look at it as all stemming from, originating from fear. And then this path of awakening asks of us to step by step, one at a time, thankfully, we don't have to get buried under an avalanche of fear, face every single fear that we've ever accumulated throughout this human life. We have to use fear to get clarity on what it is that we do not want. And when we untangle all of this web of fear and let go of all of those hardened and entrenched preferences of what it is that we do not want, what it is that's bad, then everything becomes okay. Everything becomes good. And it's not to say that I still want to be thrown out into the cold. I'm still going to work to not have that happen, but there's not going to be a second arrow. It's not going to be the suffering. There's not going to be the resistance to the resistance to the resistance. It's not going to be the and maybe there comes a point where reality converges on you having to be thrown out to the cold. Then rather than dying a miserable death in the victimhood of the entirety of reality conspiring against you, you just walk over to the next village. And finally, I want to say, in terms of awe, and Sophie, you mentioned this, that the fear is not of anything specific. When you're encountering something new, it's like a fear of the unknown, or a fear of the uncertainty of what might happen. And the claim I want to make, and this is why it's important to make this distinction between, let's say, pure awe and pure fear, is when awe has a baked-in fear, and our story is, oh, because it's uncertain, I don't know what's going to happen. I want you to consider that there is always the thing that you are truly afraid of. Meaning in situations of uncertainty, it's never the uncertainty that's the problem. It's just that we now lack the control that we're habituated to in terms of turning away from the situations that we are afraid of, that might lead us to the situation that we don't want to be in. And then, yeah, so we'll explore that later as well. But now I want to take a pause and talk about this a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, so I think what comes up when I'm hearing your explanation is like a meta fear, like a fear. If I feel through all my fears and the emotions stored, then that would really make everything that I was like holding on to just go away. So there is like kind of like I don't, almost like will this take away some of my instinct for self-preservation or my well-being or something like that? That is the, you know, something that's the meta fear that gets on the way of me being able to do what you're saying. It's just like, yeah.
Yeah. And that's another fear story. It's another thing, right? Okay, of course you know that. Yeah. The path here is not to numb fear or suppress fear. It's to be hyper attuned to fear so that when it comes up, we know what it's pointing to. Normally what happens is because we have fear and meta-fear and resistance to fear, and fear is bad, and we have this sense of how's it go? The only thing to fear is fear itself. No. You can just feel fear and be with it until it becomes an ally. Of course, in nature, if you're attacked by a lion, by a tiger, you fear and just run away. Of course, it's an ally. And in life, it becomes an ally by showing you the clarity on what it is that you think is at stake, and you can face the fear directly. You can face the thing that you think is bad directly. And so, as we do this, we become more attuned, right? Because imagine if we use the job example, we have other branches on top of that. We have status, money, and stability in the world, and so on. If we take away the fear from status and then take away the fear from capacity to find mate, and then we have justice, as we find the thing we don't want to have happen here, losing our job, we don't have this on top also vibrating. What about this? What about this? Just as I have the, oh, I'm not gonna have my job. Oh, what are the implications? Oh, this is what I value. Okay, I'll find another job that's like this. Right? Versus if so much stuff is on top, I cannot even get clarity on what it is about a job that I value, that I do want to have for my life.
But what if you do care about all these things? Like I like the job example, like has all these things and talk about all those things, and then you're like, indeed, losing the job does mean losing these things.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, the more we are aware of the choices that we've made, and it's not about running away from something. It's not that this house is built on fear. The thing that glues it together is not fear, but conscious choice. And in it embodied the types of principles that we've been exploring towards being expressions of Dharma, internal and external. The less, when fear does come up, the whole structure vibrates in a way that we don't even know what it is that we care for. Of course you care about, it's healthy to care about your social standing. It's healthy to care about your relationships, your capacity to take care of yourself with resources accumulated from a job that you care about and that brings out the best of you. And what I'm saying is, if the lowest part of the ladder or the pyramid gets threatened, it shakes everything else that's built on top in a way that makes it hard to understand. And so on the path, we essentially peel off layer after layer of fear. Right? Consider this in the context of spinning down samsara.
Yeah, then.
Sometimes we just go into the subtlest thing and just like, oh, what's this that I'm afraid of? Oh, I'll be late to my meeting today. Right? And then you clear this out, and then that's underneath. Oh, what's important to me about getting to the meeting? Oh, what's important to me about the job? Oh, what's important to me? Right? And other times there's something foundational that's so rigidly entrenched at the base of the pyramid that perhaps in the context of a therapist or some other healing space, you can go directly to the source and just lift it all up and clear it. If we're willing to also entertain that a lot of the structure on top of it might collapse.
Okay. I'll think about it. Thank you.
Think about it and tell me what's not satisfying to you still about this answer.
Okay.
What's left to say about this? Okay. Yeah, Jonathan.
I'm curious if you have guidance on working with fear effectively versus like spiraling into like a dark jonic panic.
Well, it's really all of the skills that we've been cultivating here. It's knowing what capacity you have in the moment because you've been meditating, because you're in community, because you're with a therapist. And then as you go closer and closer, deeper and deeper into the fear, into this mess that sometimes can feel so overwhelming as it starts vibrating and increasing into the space, know what you're able to deal with. And this is why this path, you could say, is about self-knowledge. It's not just about the self-knowledge of what are all my fears. It's also what can I metabolize right now? What am I available for? And you will naturally have moments of panic, moments of despair, moments of the sort of thing we can call dark night. And the skill is just nipping them in the bud, like seeing that it arises and being like, oh, I'm gonna save this for when I have some more resource. I'm gonna save this when I'm more healed, when I'm deeper in meditation, where I'm not so occupied with my job right now. Performance review is not tomorrow. Let's do it next week. And you have the same signal as you might have in a positive jhana. The thing increases, it takes over more and more of the space. You feel it in more places in your body, and it consumes you. And you start being the fear or the panic versus the bigger thing as spaciousness and safety and a positive intent. It's holding the fear. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Anything else before we move on? Jen.
Hello. What's the kind of reason to wait until there is more of that bandwidth rather than just always go towards it kind of thing? Is it that it creates almost more grooves or patterns that run away if we're not ready and then we come to it?
It's just a matter of skill, or you can even say of art. What are you capable of facing right now, both in terms of your internal makeup in the moment? Can you be the thing that's bigger than the fear? And also in terms of your life, right? If you were to be interviewed on public television about your work tomorrow, probably you would not want to have spiritual surgery, right? Just a night before, want to sleep soundly at night.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking? That help me understand.
It is, yeah, but I think I have this belief that like it's gonna keep impacting things. So, but if I get through to the bottom,
Mhm.
it'll make it go better, even if it's tomorrow.
Right. Right. If your fear is about the being interviewed on public television, of course, by all means, be with it.
Oh, you're saying it
would
was
be the
something
skillful thing.
else. That makes sense. Okay.
Okay.
Get
Generally speaking, in the context that we've been exploring, not recently, of the Vajrayana path versus some other paths, what I appreciate about the Vajrayana path is that it brings us to this space of self-arising, self-liberating we spoke about last time, which is more about the solution or exhaustion of the fear and the samsaric loops, karma, it's ripe, it's ready to be released. So it's less about spiritual surgery. It's less about, okay, I gotta get enlightened. I'm gonna go deep into myself and find it and uproot it. So generally, it's a nicer path. In the book here, because the opening paragraphs are a little a little intense. Let me share that. Mention those things here. You never have to go all the way. And you see that every aspect of mind that you liberate becomes an ally for the next leg down. Generally speaking, when we start talking about this a little bit, a lot of what we learn are tools to make this ride smooth. There are people who focus much more on really going directly to the biggest fear and facing it. And it requires a certain type of makeup, a certain type of fortitude. And some of you, I'm sure, will be more like that. And it's good to remember that if we have a lot of life, if we have children and work and responsibilities, or we're holding public office, this sort of thing may disturb our life. If we're more living in monk mode, or we're at Tantrika, we don't have that many responsibilities, our lifestyle doesn't require that much stability or resources, sure, can go straight to the source, straight to facing the worst fear. Okay. Next aspect of this that I want to mention and be clear about begins with this demonstration. What happens when you see this?
Cringe, like a pullback.
Yeah. Like a bit of a wincing away. Right?
Yeah.
Or at least I'm simulating it. I want to celebrate by saying this does not happen to me anymore. I just look at it as like, oh, shot. Yeah. Sensations. But I want you to tune into this sensation of or this movement of cringe or twinging or wincing away, doing like right, like the nurse brings it in and you're like, should I look? Should I not look? Is it gonna be better if I look or don't look? Or you have this whole thing happening. And so what I want to propose is that this act happens not just when this is about to happen, not just when the needle is about to go in, but as you consider that now it's time to drive to the clinic. And there's a subtler, smaller version of it happening the day before when you know it's supposed to happen tomorrow. And there's a subtler, still version happening when you get notified that it's time to get the vaccine. And there's a little bit of it when you move to a country where you know perhaps one day you will be required to have this vaccine because in your home country it's not a thing. And so, point that I am trying to make here is that in our unconscious, all of those sub-minds continually working in the background, there is immense calculation, activity, computational power being spent on avoiding the situation that might create the situation that might lead to the situation that we are afraid of and do not want. And so there is a way that our entire existence is characterized by being focused narrowly, right? And again, I'm also wanting you to consider this in the context of the genes within genes within genes. We're narrowly focused on some sort of average that maximizes how much we're wincing away, or let's say minimizing how much we're wincing away from what's in front of us in every moment. Because if I look slightly there, it reminds me of where my father used to come in from when he beat me when I was a kid. And when I look this way, I was sitting here in class and the teacher was there and she was yelling at me from there. So it's like I have a hard time looking this way. And this is where I got hit by the car. So I'm a little like I'm wincing this way. Maybe it happens again. And this is, I know that if I use my voice this way, then my boss might fire me and then I don't have the status. So our entire lives, as long as we have those fears baked in on every level of our psyche, are this tension structure that moves away from all of the bad possibilities. And what overcomes this is just we have to eat. We have needs that eventually overpower whatever this stack of wincing away from is, at least momentarily, as we just go and grab the thing and go back to our lair where it's safe and of course, this is greatly exaggerated, right? Like I'm evoking this image of a scared little mammal, but there are many similarities between that scared little mammal and what we are, because that scared little mammal and its assumptions are baked into every level in our psyche. And of course, there's a way that some of us would, in every moment, even in polite society, would sort of be like this, but we're also afraid of showing up like this. So rather than being afraid and being like this and telling everyone like I'm scared as fuck right now, I don't know what's gonna happen, we fool ourselves into being like, okay, no, I'm okay. I'm never afraid. This is a hello. I'm a human. I'm normal like you. I'm not afraid. I'm cool. Hey, how are you doing today? Yes, I'm here to do my job. Am I okay? Am I okay? Okay, by your smiles and laugh, I'm taking it to mean not just that you like my show, but also that this resonates with your with your life. Great.
Yeah, how dare you make me notice all of the things that I'm putting off and connect the dots between how you know the fear that's underlying those things that I conveniently never do. The response to your the prompt before the session about like, what are you afraid of? It's like, no, I'm good. Well,
Yeah. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Got it covered.
Actually,
So there's this.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I resonated with the afraid literal mammal like this because sometimes I feel like that. And then exactly when I saw that, I was like, oh, looks so familiar. It's like, that's like, sometimes I feel like that's my experience at times. And when you were doing it, it was a relief because I was like, oh, yeah, that's probably how like all of us really feel and like when we're afraid. So, yeah.
What's the animal called that buries its head in the sand in like a metaphor for if I don't see it, it doesn't exist, and I don't have to be afraid of it. Get the name of it.
Ostrich?
Ostrich. Thank you. And
I have a nice image of myself petting the small like afraid mammal version of myself. It feels comforting.
yeah, and of course, the only way through, I probably don't have to say this at this point, but treat it with compassion. Because in some sense, the entire point of this path is to create a safe, loving, compassionate space where we can take a good look at every aspect of mind, at all of those fears, all of those things that we're avoiding, dissociating from, suppressing, becoming addicted to something else, anything, just to not have to feel it. I'm sure you're all familiar with the experiment where people are left alone in the room and they would rather electrocute themselves than to sit still. It's a good test of your meditation chops. Do I prefer silence and stillness or to zap myself just to not feel what's lurking underneath my psyche? And so as a process of growing up, you could say that this is exactly, not metaphorically, exactly like a kid who learns to look under the bed to see that there's no monster. Of course, I'm saying this not to try and imply that you all need to grow the fuck up already, but that this can be treated just like a child who has an irrational fear. But here, it's not so much irrational; it's just an unskillful fear. fear that activates too much, fear that creates noise and disturbance rather than clarity. And here's a quote that I really appreciate by Jung, which is, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And can you see why that's so? Yes, Alex.
No, I just wanted to comment that I find that the most difficult thing about this is when fear or really whichever other emotion deceives you into forgetting that this is not what it really is. And like when you are in that state, it's like no matter how much you keep thinking about the Darwin, like what's going on, but you're just missing the blatant, obvious truth that this is just a really complicated construct that you're sitting inside of, and you're just like confused basically. And it's a pretty hard place to get out of sometimes. And I think like looking back on my kind of journey on the path, I can see how I progressively become more aware of just this, that this is, no matter what it is just a construct. And like, even if I am really afraid, nowadays I'm able to like just acknowledge that and recall the experiences when I saw what it was with clarity, and I can reapply it to the current experience, even though the emotion is present and really strong. And so it no longer tricks me as much. And the longer I do it, the more the clearer it becomes.
Mhm. I want you all to take a moment to reflect on this sentence. I'm going to paste it in the chat also, right in front of you. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, I want to say that the reason why I'm like struggling to understand this chapter, because it's kind of a little bit of the edge of my personal practice. So I'm like, my system is just, I understand it logically. My system is just like, I don't know what that means, you know? So it's like kind of trying to like do it as you speak. And so when I read that line, I think one of the things that that I feel is that the level of responsibility that we have over our circumstances, and that on itself probably for me is one of the most terrifying things. So speaking about fear, is how much weight I have over my own destiny and how much it's on me. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's just like how I feel. It's like it's and it feels that it shouldn't be like this somehow. It feels like it's too much pressure for just one person to figure out.
It is. It is. And then the question is, what is the me that's feeling pressured? What is it made of?
Yeah, I guess my
Stay with the question for another moment. What is the me that's being pressurized made of?
oh,
Yeah.
well, hmm, a bunch of concepts on top of concepts.
Yeah. but all glued together by fear.
Hmm.
And the pressure is all this fear being triggered. Because remember that this is not sometimes I use the perspective that this is like malevolent, sometimes I say less developed, but sometimes even malevolent activity by a coordinator trying to fool the system into giving it the reins. But you can also take the perspective, and generally that's more true, or at least it's more skillful in terms of it helping you become compassionate, friendly with it. The thing that's being pressurized that you're pointing to doesn't know that this is what it's made of and this is what it's doing. It just feels the pressure and has this sense of, this is me. I am the thing that's preventing me from dissolving into a giant mess that cannot take care of itself. It's going to starve. It's going to be hurt. And as we go towards this exploration of Dharma, one of the hindrances of doubt comes up partly from this type of activity. There is something in it that even as it doesn't fully know or is ignorant to, oh, I'm gonna dissolve all of this structure and feel all the fears. There's also a part that does know and is like, I'm not going towards the thing that's gonna be the end of me. And so it starts applying all of those fears. No, if I do this, I'll be lazy. I won't be able to make money. No one will like me. I'll just be a robot. I'll be still and I won't care about anything and I'll die. But of course, the path is going in the opposite direction, because as we let go of the fear and let go of the petrified and fixed intentions, we regain processing power, we regain vitality. We step into the world with more aliveness. We're freshly arriving at any moment, at every moment, with more tools to take care of ourselves. So it's a fiction by the thing that doesn't fully understand that it's glued together by fear.
Yes, I think I understand the hierarchy, the pyramid. It seems like what is you say what's the pressure is that I'm like holding all this construct of fear on top of fear, on top of fear. So every single step feels like it could become a cascade of all the worst case scenario. And then if you have to make the best choice at every moment to prevent all these scenarios, it's just...
Exactly. You're expressing it perfectly. This is exactly the thing.
Yeah.
We were not planned, like as you say, we were not designed to hold out. Like our mind is tiny. It's meant to remember where we've buried the seeds in winter and like a little bit more. And we try to outcompute the entire universe.
Yes.
Because we have a concept of the world and the universe and society, we try to outcompute and plan in advance how to thread the line between all of the fears and pressures, pretending that we can ever know what they're going to be from here on to the future and how we are going to be to slot through them. It's insanity.
Yes.
It's madness. It's pressure. This is suffering.
Mental one at a time.
So again, that's up to you. How brave are you? How much is your life ready for disruption? Yeah. Jen?
I think I have this like fear or worry that's been almost like a little confirmed in my life, that if like that letting the fears go comes with more risks, and especially when inhibition goes but kind of underlying clinging or aversion is still there, it'll come out more. It's just like less like the previous strategy of constraining is like taken out, but the underlying layers aren't. And I think it isn't necessarily helping. So it feels like there's a difficult bump on the way to like things functioning better.
There is truth in there sometimes being a need to show up consciously and reinvent yourself, where before there was a habit glued together by fear. Because if you used to rely on fear and as the compass, telling you how to navigate, and now you don't have it, then as you say, the next levels will be like, okay, but now what if I say something offensive?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so then this is where as we untangle the fear and we hand it off to conscious awareness, or even the more expanded basis of operation, we use that capacity to reinvent how we want to show up. And then we have the capacity to make the choice that comes out of dharmic principles, comes out of love rather than fear. And then it's a question of, how do I want to show up versus how do I show up in a way where they don't kill me and throw me out to the cold?
No,
Yeah, does that make sense?
I think that makes sense. But I guess I'm curious, does it seem on point that in some ways, letting layers that were squashed before but are still clinging layers come out can lead to, like, as it's coming through, it's gonna like it can do stuff that before it was like squashed into not doing.
Yes.
Okay, cool. And that there is sometimes more risk because you are not following the rules and just playing it very safe, and like
That's right.
people will dislike things.
100%. That this path leads to an inner sense of safety and the capacity to create a life that's as safe as you want it. But the path itself is far from 100% safe. Meditation is not safe. We are performing spiritual surgery on ourselves in field conditions. Right? That's why we go on retreats. That's why people go to caves. That's why we have sanghas, communities that support us. That's why we have teachers who track practice. This is not a path that we want to go at alone. In the future, when these assumptions are baked into society, some of those things are going to be as natural to us as learning how to read in school, right? We have the entire envelope of support. But right now, we are pioneers on this path of conscious evolution. And pioneers are never safe. First person who went to the moon, not safe. First person to discover radioactive isotopes, not safe. And thankfully, at least at this level of practice, we have many best practices. We have support. It's just not as baked into society as all the regulations, making sure the plane you step on doesn't just dissolve in midair. Right? You're not the first to do it, but it's not exactly as regulated and as safe as going on an airplane ride.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think it is the hitting up against, like, others won't understand that this is a blip, I'm going through. Like, there's things it's a different perspective on, like, yeah. That sounds amazing, though, what you're projecting as the future.
Yeah. Jonathan?
Yeah, that just brings up the notion, like when I'm working with people, with varying degrees of trauma, how it's never about taking away people's coping mechanisms, because those are always load bearing, but about giving them more options, more capacity, more skillful means, so that they can get their needs met in a way that doesn't cause them to collapse.
Yep.
So it's still deconstructive, but it's in a kind of like in a constructive way.
Yep, 100%. In 3 chapters down the line, when we discuss this more completely about how there's something very misleading about the notion of letting go, because we never just, or at least in a healthy path, we don't just chop off branches from the tree. We replace functionality in order to meet our needs with more sophisticated structures. Either ones that do not rely on fear, on those other, let's say, tainted qualities, if to use the Buddhist language, or ones that simply require less energy because we've simplified out of a more complex view of the world what it is that we really need. Just a preview, it's okay if you don't fully grok this. We'll talk about this later. All right, I want us to have time for some inquiries. So let's do two of those. Start with the simple one. And so I want this to be a very safe and personal exploration. And so do whatever you need to settle into yourself, whether it's closing your eyes or keeping it open so you can stay in contact with me and our group here. Remember the practice from the beginning of the session, evoke the sense of safety, comfort. Remember that you're sitting, imagine, yes, I believe all of you are sitting within walls. You're not exposed to the elements. No tiger is coming. It's very unlikely that your boss is going to call you right now and demand something that might lead to you losing your job. So, safe to say, everything is okay for the moment. Or most things are okay for the moment. And from the space, I want you to bring up, if you have, the fear that I ask you to bring. Doesn't have to be the biggest fear, but probably good if it's the one that when I posted a question in the group yesterday, or now when I'm saying, what do you fear? It's the thing that's really on the surface. And notice how it's coming up. If it's a sound that comes up or an image, if it's a kinesthetic feeling, what is the symbol that represents the fear? To put it differently, what is the mind squeezing right now in terms of your sensory afferents to create this picture, the thing that is bad, that you're aversive to? And as you bring it to mind and you hold it gently, like it's in the palm of your mental hand, and as you stay in contact with the bigger field of safety and support we've created for ourselves, and begin exploring what it is about the fear you do not want. It might be a host of sensations somewhere in the body. Might be something that it means about you if this event were to take place. Might even be that you cannot contact your body. There's just oh, bad, don't go there. Like a wincing away from a shot, from a needle. And if that's the case, stay with the wincing. Stay with the sensations of wincing. Stay with the tissue that's contracting. I want you to ask yourself, how do you know that this is fear? I'm not saying this by way of magic wanding it away. It's not about invalidating the fear. Really coming into contact with the fear, the thing that we're calling fear. What is it made of? Whether the fear is in this imagined scenario, the fear is in the wincing away from it, the fear is in the meaning downstream from the event. Where is it happening? How is it happening? What are the flavors of it? Whatever it is, we hold it very tenderly, like the most loving mother. Often when children are hurt, they're afraid of something. In the moment, they won't feel safe or they won't have the capacity to fully feel their feelings. They wait until they get home to mommy where it's safe and it's comfortable. They can be supported to really unwind, to really feel the fear. So likewise, I want to encourage you to first test if your inner mommy is present, if it feels safe. And if so, really feel into the fear, really let it express what it is. Maybe a movement or a sound, maybe some clarity, a realization. And in the space where no one is judging you, you can also turn off your microphone for video. See what the fear is about. See the wisdom of it. Let the fear show you its wisdom. The fear express. When I say fully fear, it's exactly like the type of meditation practice that we've done. Rather than having relaxation or whatever positive quality expand through the body, letting the fear expand through, letting it take hold of the system, but only to the extent that it still feels mostly safe, but still the bigger you enveloping it. Remember that just like the monster under the bed, this can't hurt you. Might be a little unpleasant and uncomfortable. Might have a little bit of panic, a little bit of overwhelm. But to the extent that it's possible, let it play out. You're having a hard time trusting that you have the capacity, ask yourself if you're willing to feel 5% more. You don't have to immediately jump into the whole thing. Go towards more and more fully feeling the fear, letting go of any resistance to it. You might even see that it starts feeling pleasurable. The uninhibited movement can be pleasurable. I believe some of you are feeling it now. Because of course, even if a tiger is chasing me through the woods, as long as I'm not panicking, as long as there's just fear, of course it feels pleasurable. Feel alive. Using all of myself to be a human. Am I gonna be able to escape this time? How exciting. Maybe the tiger catches up with me and eats me. Wonder how that experience is gonna be like. The invitation is to continue being intimate with the fear. Know it through and through. Way to know that the process has concluded. Of course, it's very possible that it will not happen in one time. Is that in the place where we were feeling the fear might be a sense of more lubrication or openness, softness. Generally, this is perhaps the most accurate signal. A heart will be open where before we had something to protect. Be a greater sense of ease in our chest. We'd be more outwards looking and available. If you evoke the fear again, whatever image or memory is there, also see what your relationship is with it now. Perhaps even bring a smile to your face, a welcoming smile for evoking the memory of fear. Some of you have turned off your cameras, so I'm hoping you are exercising some movement or some other activity. Maybe you're screaming, maybe you're punching something, maybe you're tantruming on the ground. So beautiful. I salute you. Feel free to continue doing that as we return to the space. Come back whenever you're ready. And anyone who's comfortable, I'd love for you to share with as many details you care to insert or exclude.
So can you repeat the last instructions?
In a meditation or for us now in the space?
No, yes.
Oh, now I was asking for any shares.
Okay.
Yeah, Boris, go for it.
I started focusing on a specific field, and the process that unfolded was I was somehow more comfortable with this field, and then it ignited another field and another field and another field, and so they kept coming in different domains of my life. I don't know, maybe it's the pyramid that you were talking about, but this was the main experience there.
And were you able to be with all of them, or was it just overwhelming?
No, it was, I got used to one, and then it went to the other one. It wasn't overwhelming, but it felt they kept coming and more.
Sophie.
Yeah, so I get very absorbed in the exercise. That's why I was like, oh, what it just I remember I heard that you said let's share, but I wasn't like sure. That's why I asked. But I went very like deep into my body. Like I started having fears, and then I realized that I was like I went into like a conceptual fear, and then I went to the kind of like next layer fear, and I felt like more core. And then I started having the experience of imagining me running away. And then it's when you ask, like, oh, how do you know it's fear? And I was like, oh, I'm like imagining me running. So, and then I've noticed my breath was like faster. And I think that's when I started realizing that, oh, like I'm just imagining fears. I'm not letting them in the body. Like I'm dissociating a little bit, but just kind of like escaping it. And then like I started going more into them and just like feeling it. And then all the concepts and the reasons why I'm afraid just fell away. There was no fear, like kind of concept fear. There was just body fear. And then it was like even my body posture just started just like changing. And then like, and at some point my pupils got like, I felt as if they got like very like, and then I was like just very afraid. And then so what I did was just bring up the view as much as I could. Because when you said especially the loving mother, I was like, oh, like that's like the view would be there, and then like would be that, and then it obviously at first the first pass it gets really like radiant and it kind of goes away, and then level 2 it just brings it up with more intensity because your body is like, oh, now it's more welcome, so there's a lot more fear, and then there was just like just fear, and my body just being very like small and just like terrified and and like kind of like much younger, and yeah, and then it's when you start just like wrapping it up, and then I'm just noticing that it's a lot more doable than I thought it would be. That it's kind of like just maybe like you will get more uncomfortable the more fear there is, but that's more doable. Like that I don't need to like figure it out or like have any like what
Yeah.
about is just like be with with my body that has a stored fear.
Yep. Beautiful. And I'm sorry we did not have enough time to bring your process to a conclusion.
It's okay. I think it'll probably take hours to be honest, but thank you so much. I really appreciate
It
it.
really doesn't have to take that long. And also want to say it doesn't necessarily become more uncomfortable. Because as you get to the source of it, as you tune into the core vibration of it, when you come into phase with it and really embody it, it can be pleasant. The uncomfortableness is in the resistance. It's in the second arrow, it's in burying it in layers and layers of not exactly the thing, just like dancing around it. Then you fully come into the thing. It's like, it's like this relief, right? Or you can have like this shriek come in that I'm not gonna do here to not freak you out, right? But like imagine a mammal caught in the right, just about to be caught in the mouth of a tiger, and it's just like shrieking out of fear. There's no agenda. It's not even necessarily calling for help. It's just from the bottom of its physiology. It's like, so this is all available to you. And there's nothing about this that needs to be uncomfortable. Pleasant sensations, the badness comes from us having decided that it's bad. And it's in the fight against our innate properties that we suffer.
Yeah, I can see that. I think it was going in that direction. So, but I mean, I'll have to try it. I'll do it after the call. See what happens.
Okay. And I want to do one last exploration for today. This will be a little shorter, and it will give you an easy way to see how you're constrained by fear in every moment. In some sense, this is like an abridged version of the path. So assume the safe position again. Doesn't have to be very meditative, right? Just like relax into something comfortable and mostly alert and awake. I want you to take a minute or two and bring to mind one of the practices that we've done over the past few weeks and months that has to do with letting go of any online agendas. You can think about letting go of time, stepping into the timeless nature of experience. You can let go of any story, any narrative, any identity. Where you can unfurl and expand every which way. Staying in deep contact with this present moment. Having the mind to go towards expansion. Mm-hmm. Now I want you to imagine your tiny mammal hiding in its cave, a little hole in the ground. Or otherwise, an ostrich also burying its head in the ground. And very, very slowly, pull out. Start having this idea of looking around you, opening your eyes, expanding. And as you do so, I want you to notice, you can do this very, very slowly. I want you to notice what you might wince away from as you consider expanding and expanding all the way into awakening. Even just this moment. Expanding into more possibilities. What would happen if I drop my defenses, get out of my safe and comfortable cave? Where is the threat coming from? It can come as in a form of an image, come in the form of a tension in the body that slightly asserts itself. Some sense, some felt sense of a boundary on the space that you're not supposed to expand beyond. With the same attitude that we've cultivated, ask yourself, what is there? What is the bad thing? What do you fear? What is this worst thing that's going to happen? Because of which we spend our lives in the comfort, the imagined comfort of our caves. What's going to happen if I really let myself be free? Don't worry about facing that fear right now. This is more of a tool that I just want you to keep in mind. It's available in every situation, in every room you step into, in any conversation. You can either use it in every situation or even on the cushion, imagine a situation and do this move and see what might be the constraint. And when you're ready, come back to the space. Let's briefly debrief on this one. It's a way that this is the simplest practice. It's like such a simple inquiry. Doesn't even require a lot in the way of meditation chops. And it can be the most challenging because it's literally the opposite move what we're used to. Lizard brains and mammalian brains are so used to just, oh, I'll stay here. I'm safe. This is requiring us to go against this programming spec. Any comments or questions or anything that wants to be shared?
I just want to say that, yeah, this is a good and helpful and simple tool I found. easy to apply, and kind of when in situations where you're not sure what's going on, why you feel uncomfortable, or yeah, to get to the point quickly.
And remember that anytime your brain is saying, oh, I don't know what I'm afraid of. Oh, I don't know why I'm constricting here. It's lying to you. It always knows. It is incapable of not knowing. If you ask the question, there will be an answer. And if the answer is I don't know, it is an attempt based on fear to hide the fear.
Yeah.
So you allow the don't know to come up, and you don't have to fight it. You just ask again. The don't know will get tired. If you keep asking, the answer will come, especially if you are armed with this knowledge of there's always an answer. There is no fear of uncertainty. There's no fear of the unknown. Fear is always the known, because fear depends on a concept. Fear depends on a past experience that we had that we learned was bad. And only from the reference point of some other mind, some other act of coordination. All fear is based on past experience. That we always know what it is that you're projecting on this present moment or on the future. And so, in the same context, when we truly run out of bad things, which corresponds with dissolving all of our karma, there's no more need to obsessively spin up a past or a future or a self that forms a bridge between them that's always on. No need for top-down managers. There's no need for fixed intentions. It all just clears out. And all that remain are the positive qualities inherent in human beings. All the love and compassion and kindness and all of those qualities that right now we are sort of faking till we make it, just naturally arise because there's no reason for anything else to come up besides those positive qualities. There's no reason to negate anything. There's no reason to invalidate anything. No reason to wince from. That is when we're finally and truly free. But of course, there's no reason to even expect this final freedom. Even the expectation and the desire to go towards some final freedom is based on a fear of how it is now. So I invite you to continue focusing on the present moment and its own fears. And with the knowledge that any fear that we feel through and any layer that we peel off increases our freedom. So the most important thing is to stay with the freedom and the conscious choice that we have right now. Continually choosing how we want to show up, continually choosing how we want to be with this baggage, continually choosing how to treat the little children of our mind that are scared of monsters lurking under the bed. Any last comments or questions before we finish for today? Yeah.
So I have a question about what happens if we do run this exercise all the way. So if every time I would feel a fear, instead of going into my mind, trying to solve it, map out all the worlds, it's like a chess game, and just like feel the fear fully.
Yeah.
And let's say I can do that every single time, and then what happens?
What happens? Yeah, what happens?
What is fear when you're like in freedom?
Can you tell me? Can anyone tell me what is fear when there's freedom? Yeah.
One thing I've noticed with exercises like this is the what when I have behaviors that are based on various fears, and I go and I kind of get to the root of them, notice what the unmet need I had was that was kind of compensating with the fear that was then creating specific actions that it took me a long time to notice that I was no longer taking those actions, because there's like noticing you have to look for something that's not there, because it's harder to notice a negative. And so it was only in retrospect that I was seeing that I had a lot more freedom of action and how I was engaging with other people instead of these old habitual patterns that were pushing people away.
So what is fear when you have freedom?
It is like lack of constraint. There was just kind of subtle, because I had to really look for what wasn't there anymore.
Alex, you want to give it a shot?
Yeah. So fear when we're free is this might be a little bit sort of like this is the way that I would explain it. It's the wisdom of the past that arises in the moment when it's needed, and guides you in that moment, and then it dissolves when the moment naturally passes away.
Okay, I want you all to try something. Listen to the sentence I'm gonna say, and I want you to really feel it in your body. Excitement is fear without holding your breath. Excitement is unresisted fear. And this is the gateway into something that we'll explore way deeper down, to the world of Tantra, to the world of existential kink, the world where fear, beyond becoming an ally around clarity and what's important to me, becomes the giant wave that I can put my surfboard on and really enjoy my life with excitement and vitality and fulfilling my karma beautifully, versus just wanting to exhaust it or get rid of it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking about. Is that later in the book?
Yeah. And you're all touching it, like, and there's a way that even in the talking about it, there's a little bit of fear, because we're so programmed to not allow this type of liveliness come out of us. So we tiptoe into it. And likewise, I want to invite you not to just explode with excitement the next time you have a fear come up. Baby steps, right? Just consider that as an option. Next time you have a fear show up like this, whether naturally or because of doing this exercise, see how you can breathe with it and let it energize you. Let it be something that's exciting to face, like running away from a tiger, and not something that chokes you down. This is where you transform from a lizard mammal brain and into a human, into a conscious creator.
Wow, that sounds so cool. I feel like that's like one of those things about the path that when I hear it, it's like, that sounds too good to be true, but I know it's true, but it's so like, whoa. I'm excited about that prospect.
Yeah, this is why people take various substances. MDMA, for example, does a lot of this for you. Regulates the dopaminergic system in some very early brain structures to create the sense of, oh, everything is just okay, so I can just be alive. This is why people love it so much. right? And many other substances achieve this in different ways. But you can be like this all the time. And the price of entry is just facing each and every one of your fears. All right, I think that's a good place to end for today. Thank you all for coming. Enjoy your fears. Post in the group if you run into something particularly juicy.
Thanks, Dor.
Thank you.